Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Going back to Pioneer today. This is slightly different. It's a deck that Jacob from my local game store messaged me earlier on Facebook, so I thought, you know what, I haven't done one of these videos for a little while, so I'll check it out and give it a little run through. So he gave me the kind of disclaimer that it is a budget mono white deck. He's not got the Heliod combo in there. So it's probably, it's not necessarily going to be super competitive, but had a look at it. It looks kind of sweet. I can see what he's trying to do with it. There's a few little things that I think could be improved, or cards that maybe don't belong in the main deck. But we'll go through it now, and so I'll give my take on what he's trying to do with it. So I think the main idea of the deck is you've got this guy, Odric, Lunarch, Marshal. So basically, whatever other abilities all your creatures have got, the rest of them get it at the start of combat. I think if I'm reading that right. Beginning of each combat, all your creatures get first strike, or flying, or death touch, or double strike, or haste, or hexproof, or indestructible, lifelink, menace, reach, skulk, trample, and vigilance. If any of your creatures have that, so he's packed the deck out with creatures with those abilities. So it's a sort of aggressive deck with this as a kind of combo piece. A little bit like Torbran in the mono red decks in standard at the moment that are you play stuff, you get aggressive, and then you play your 4-drop, which should hopefully close the game out. My only slight worry is that I don't know if this will close the game out immediately in the same way as Torbran can. Sometimes you just cast a Torbran attack in, and you've got enough damage there. I guess if you've got double strikers, potentially, but that relies on a few other things. My other slight worry about it is that quite a lot of the creatures seem to have lifelink. Alseid, Sacred Cat, one of the other ones did. Lone Rider, Aerial Responder. Lifelink's great, but without the sort of combo that Heliod provides, Heliod plus Walking Ballista combo, obviously, then lifelink is just prolonging the game, stopping you dying, whereas actually you want things to do extra damage. So if you had loads more double strikers or tramplers or something like that, like if all of these had trample instead, I'd be a lot more interested, I think. Trample, I think, is one of the ones that none of the creatures do have. It's not really a white ability as such. So that's my kind of literally my first take on it, is that lifelink without the combo isn't going to win you games. It's going to just stop you losing them. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it might do. If you're playing against another aggressive deck, it'll give you a better clock. You can race them, you can attack in a lot, especially if you've got flyers and stuff, and you might edge some games like that. But in general, if a gold fishing type scenario, if you're playing against a control deck or whatnot, it doesn't get their life total from 20 to 0 quicker. It just gets yours higher, which doesn't advance you towards winning. So anyway, that's my sort of initial take on it. Land based, not much to see here really. Got pretty much all planes. We've got Castle Ardenvale, that makes sense because they're pretty much free. Yes, you might have some occasional hands where you have like double Castle Ardenvale and cast up on curve, but makes sense. The one I'm not sure about, Westvale Abbey, I kind of get it. There's a potential where you can get whatever the prince is called onto the battlefield, but I think this is generally good in like Field of the Dead type decks where you're going to get tokens sort of for free anyway, and then you could convert them into something good. I think my worry about it here is that it's a colourless land, taps for colourless, which doesn't allow you to play things like Aerial Responder, any of your 1-drops, or Tomic. So that's a big worry. I would just not bother playing this unless you had something where each time you attack you get a token. I don't think I've seen anything like that. If you had that, maybe it becomes slightly more valuable, but probably wouldn't play this. I really love the card, but just not in this deck, I don't think. And the only other thing I could think is maybe some of the new white lands that if you have 3 planes or more, you put a +1 counter on something, could be okay. Don't know. Lots of mono-coloured decks in Pioneer are running Mutavault, which has the drawback like this of only producing colourless mana, but is another creature, so it just adds to that aggression. So it's kind of always a trade-off between how many pips do you have to cast your stuff. So like the mono red decks usually play 2 Mutavolts, I think. Thinking about that, actually, the one that you could play, the desert kind of cycle of lands, Shepherd Dunes is quite a nice one. It is similar to Ramanat Ruins, where you can basically sack it or another desert and pump something like +2/+2, something like that. Anyway, it'd probably be quite good. It taps for colourless, but you can also pay life and tap it to still get white mana out of it. So yeah, I'd probably consider some of them actually in there. Other than that, I don't think there's any other lands that kind of provide sort of card advantages outside of Ardenvale. I guess I kind of missed that combo. Ardenvale gets tokens for the Westvale Abbey, but still, I think that's very, very slow. If you're having to pump out, say, 3 of these +2 of your creatures, then to sack them all to make a thing, you're probably dead by that point. That's like turn 5, 6, 7 at least. Well, way later than that, actually. This is going to have to be activated several times. Yeah, unlikely to ever happen, but I can see the very slight potential there. So starting at the 1-drops, Alseid. I really like this card, but I don't think it belongs in this deck because the SRAM Auras deck that I was playing recently, I can see why it's in there, because you basically want to do a Protect the Queen type strategy where you load a load of auras onto one creature and then want to protect it. So very similar to the mono blue tempo deck in Standard a little while back, where you would play a thing, put Curious Obsession on it, and then counter everything they did. This is a very similar card to Siren Storm Tamer, where you could sack it to sort of counter a spell. This one gives protection. Slight downside if you're coming up against other white decks, and you've got in the SRAM Auras deck, you had to then you couldn't give protection from white because all your stuff would drop off it. So in this one, I mean, I guess it protects some of your slightly better creatures, but I don't think anything is worthy of spending a card to protect individually. You haven't got something that you're suiting up with several other cards that you really need to protect to make sure you don't get blown out, like in the mono blue or the SRAM Auras deck. And you haven't got anything that's individually powerful enough to sort of warrant doing this. I mean, it's got lifelink, so that is an ability for this, but then so is everything else. So yeah, I really like the card. It provides a lot of value in the 1-drop, but I think you've got to ask, once this comes down and they play a creature, are you ever going to be able to attack with this? Not really, sort of without it dying. So yeah, not sure about this one. I'm wondering whether you'd be better off with just sort of one of the 1-mana 2/1 things, or something with a different ability, like I haven't got any at 1-drop. Anything just like a 1/1 first striker, something like that. This guy, no, it's different. So yeah, like the card. I'm not sure about it. Brave the Elements. Aaron played this one against me in his mono white deck, where he's doing the Heliod Walking Ballista combo, and it's really annoying, especially if you're playing a mono red deck. I think it's really good. It's like a sort of better. I can't think what the card's called. God's Willing. You don't get the scry, but all of your creatures get the protection. So you can just go, play a 1-drop, play a 2-drop, play a 3-drop, attack with them all, give them all protection from whatever the other creature, protection from green or something, swing in past the board of 2/4s or something, or you can protect from removal spell, fatal pushes, shocks, wild slashes, whatever. You can protect against a lot of things with this. Again, it has the downside to you can't protect against white. Can you protect white creatures you gain? No, you can. Sorry, you can protect against white. So it only counts white creatures you control, but all your creatures are white, so that's fine. Apart from this guy who you don't really care about, giving protection, and these are white. Yeah, 4 of them seems a lot. That jumps out to me like a little bit over the top, maybe. The problem is it doesn't protect against board wipes. You can protect against Supreme Will with this, so that'd be like the main thing that you'd like to be able to do with it. Instead of that, you have to play like a 3-mana version of this, which gives them indestructible, or the one that Spirits have played. I think it's a 2-mana Selfless Spirit, 2-mana 2/1 flying. I think sack it to give them indestructible. Might just be better, to be honest, because you can get around board wipes and stuff like that a bit easier. And it also has the keyword for this, so you would give all your other stuff flying as well with it. especially if you manage to get to beginning the combat before you sacked it. So yeah, you could do that. You could go beginning the combat, trigger this, everything has flying, sack the thing so they have indestructible, swing in over the top and past their one flying blocker or something for lethal. So that could be a thing you could do, but obviously that would be moving this into the 2-drop slot as a creature, which you then have to sack, which is not great in an aggressive deck, having to sack your creatures. But yeah, so again, not sure. This seems to have more of a place in this deck than the Alseid, but 4 just seems a little bit over the top, and maybe just play a couple of them and a couple of other similar abilities. Where the one I was thinking earlier, the 2/1, I think it's a knight. It was in Dominaria. When it comes in, you can give something else. You kind of soul bond it, whatever you call it, where you can sack the 1-drop to protect the other one. So kind of protect against board wipe somewhat. You can give you better creatures. So you have an aerial responder. You play the other guy sort of off curve, protect it. Difficult is when you play it on turn 1. Doesn't really work, but anyway. Kytheon, I really like this card. It reminds me a lot of Legion's Landing. You get the bonus. I'm just going to make this a bit bigger to see, because I know the resolution's quite poor on these videos, so hopefully let's do this. So Kytheon, at the end of combat, if he and the 2 other creatures attacked, you can get him Backflip. So this is in the I wasn't playing when these cards came out, but they look really good fun. They're in, I think it's the Jace Prince Prodigy sort of series. There's this, there's the Nissa, which is quite good. There was a green-black mid-range deck that I played against a little while back at a qualifier at Axion actually, and the guy was playing the Nissa that was really good. This guy obviously has got the other ability of being able to pay 3 to make him have indestructible. I'm guessing this guy, Odric, doesn't count indestructible though, does he? Oh, he does. Okay. So that's pretty good. Only works at the beginning of the combat though, so obviously in the opponent's turn, if they're going to go 4-mana sorcery, i.e. Supreme Verdict, you can't get around it like that, but you can at least pay 3 to give him indestructible. Yeah, so I'm wondering, actually, the more I think about it, the more this would be taking the deck in a different direction already. But you could play, instead of these 1-drops, you could play Legion's Landing. You get the 1/1 lifelink vampire out of them, which is kind of the same as this anyway. Because like I say, I don't think you really need the sack ability. And then you just get loads of value when you do swing with your 2 or 3, your 3 creatures. This guy flips, turns into, I think the best ability here is just the 0 at the bottom, turns into a 4/4 indestructible every turn, which again gives all your other creatures indestructible because it would trigger the Odric. The other abilities may be useful. You might want to get blockers out of the way so you can make them attack into Gideon and stuff. So a lot of value in the 1-drop. He's just a 1-mana 2/1 anyway, so if you just look at it at base value, vanilla test already passes that test. But yeah, I'm kind of thinking the most recent mono white deck that I've seen do quite well, other than the Heliod combo one, which is not actually really an aggressive deck. It's kind of a mid-range deck. I've even seen controlling versions playing a lot of removal, where they're just stalling the game out until they get the combo. They're not really attacking at all. They're not really using combat to win. They're just stalling the game until they get the combo. Yeah, the mono white list in standard that just played the Venerated Loxodon. It played like the 0/3 becomes a 3/3 when you've got City's Blessing, and it played kind of a patient game. You just accumulate 3 or 4 things. Suddenly they're all massive. You swing with them all. You flip your Legion's Landing. You get extra mana. I mean, sometimes it did that on turn 3, but occasionally it could just play quite a patient game. Flipping the Legion's Landing was awesome because it basically gives you a Castle Ardenvale that's cheaper to activate. Then at that point, I am much more interested in the Westvale Abbey if we're doing that. So yeah, maybe there's something in that of trying to go wider and swing with 3 things, have sort of triggers off of swinging with a lot of creatures. But anyway, yeah, it seems a good card. I can see why you've included it. Yeah, it's not bad at all. Just base rate is quite good. Whether you ever get to flip it or not, it's almost doesn't really matter because a 1-mana 2/1 still fine. Sacred Cat, again similar to this guy, just the lifelink. I'd much rather this was first strike or flying, or obviously double strike would be great. Even vigilance, if there's 1-mana 1/1 vigilances or something. Menace would be great. It's not really a white ability though. This guy almost looks like he'd be better in a 2-colour deck potentially with you know, if you had a black deck as well, which has a bit more, I don't know, flying and menace or something, then, or I don't know, red deck with some double strike. I guess it wouldn't work with Embercleave, would it? Because that's at the beginning of the combat that's got triggers. So I'm thinking you could give everything double strike. That wouldn't work, but yeah. So Sacred Cat, it's nice. It's got the embalm, so you get a little bit of sort of card advantage there. Where he dies once, you just bring him back, and the cost is only 1 white as well. So it's like a one-time escape essentially, without having to exile any of the cards. You get it back as another 1/1. That's fine. Onto the 2-drops. Adorned Pouncer, I really like this one. Now we're talking cards that really do synergise with the Odric. So 1/1 double strike doesn't seem great, but if you eternalise it, which is like the better embalm, comes back as a 4/4 double strike, and that's quite scary. And then if you, I don't know, give that protection from whatever their blocker is, that's 8 damage. All your other stuff suddenly has double strike then. Costs 5 mana, so that is a bit of a downside, obviously. So yeah, the difficulty is if you get to turn 5 and then you're playing this, then you're untapping, then you've got to attack with it, there's a good chance they just remove it again or just jump block it. We haven't got trample to kind of really force it through. You know, a trample double striker, as we've seen with Embercleave, is just really powerful, and this guy does count trample, so yeah, so I'm trying to think of other cards. You could play something like Shadow Spear, something like that would give your things trample as well, but again, there's sort of more cards you're having to play to sort of make the combos work. But yeah, this I like this card anyway, it's good. You can attack through X1s with it, obviously, it's nice. Declaration in Stone, so it's some removal in the main. It's a really good card. 4 of, again, it's a little bit like the Brave Dungeon. It seems like a lot. I think in an aggressive deck like this, you want to be using your creatures almost as your removal. It is probably one of the best removal cards in white in Pioneer. So yeah, I can't blame you for playing this one. 4 of maybe a little bit too much. Maybe you just want some more evasive things, and some more things that provide a bit of card advantage or late game or something. Over 4 of these seems a little over the top, but yeah, it's a very good card. Good choice. Lone Rider, this one seems to sort of do it all. It's a little bit like the Kytheon, where it comes in and it's kind of fine, and then if you transform it, it's kind of nuts. So 2 mana, first strike, lifelink, so it kind of has 2 of the abilities. Like I say, the lifelink one I'm not so keen on, but it does have the ability here, which I guess actually I've been missing with the other guys with the lifelink. This is how you flip this guy, so you do need some other lifelinkers, maybe just not quite as many. Trying to think of other ways to gain life outside of creatures with lifelink. Anyway, yeah, you flip him, suddenly he becomes first strike, trample a lifelink, so there is trample in this deck. I'd missed that earlier, so yeah, okay, that's pretty good. So you're really incentivized to be able to flip this guy. I think that's the thing with lots of these cards, you kind of need them to combine. None of them are individually powerful. You need them to do his thing. The Kytheon, yeah, he's fine, the 2/1 on his own, but if you can flip him, then he starts providing the kind of real value. Brave Elements is good if you have the other creatures out. So there's a little bit of kind of, if best case scenario happens, then good stuff happens. If things get picked off, deck doesn't do anything. So that's my kind of worry with it, really. It's one of those decks, it looks great in a vacuum where you kind of go, well, this does this combos with this. You'll swing in for 15 trample, haste, indestructible, unblockable, protection from all colours and stuff. But people also play things like Fatal Push and blockers and things that kill you on turn 4 or 5, so that's the worry, I think. But yeah, this card seems good. I can completely see why you've included this. Seems a good choice. Tomic looks like, given your other stuff, flying is pretty good. 2 mana, 2/3 is pretty good, and stopping the Lotus Field combo just seems good as well. So yeah, it just seems it's a good rate. It'd be nice if there was sort of some benefit of him being legendary. I guess you could play the no, it's bad, and it's just a worse meter. I was going to say the land that in standard that's cheaper if you have legendaries, it turns into a 3/3 vigilance thing. I guess that would at least give vigilance to other creatures, but I think it's a little bit too expensive. But yeah, card's good, seems fine. Aerial Responder has 3 of your keywords, just good value. 3 mana, 2/3, can attack every turn. Yeah, pretty good. Can't fault that one, seems good. This one I just straight up don't think should be in the deck, probably at all. Sideboard at best is cast out. The flash isn't that relevant because you're kind of tapping out everything every other turn. The exiling one of their things is fine, but it's basically having to pay an extra mana to give it flash. You could just play Banishing Light, or even be a bit more specific about what things you're trying to get out of the way. If you're trying to get rid of creatures, Baffling End, or Seal Away again if you're kind of more reactive, but I think you want to be proactive, you want to be casting stuff on your turn, in your main phase, before you go to combat to clear the way for your sort of 1-2 power creatures that will otherwise just die. So I would probably go for something like a couple of Baffling Ends, maybe not the 4 Deck and Stones, probably play a couple of these, 2 Baffling Ends, and then maybe the other one the mono white decks are playing is Stasis there, I think it's called, which is 3 mana. It is double white, but that should be fine in a mono white deck. I think it's flash, which is just a bonus, and it basically comes in and does the same as Banishing Light, but I think it might only be creatures. So yeah, I completely get the need to have an ability like this, but 4 mana is just too much, I think. I think 22 lands seems about right for this deck, but these, I think I'd want them down here on the curve. Means you have to be a bit more narrow about what you can hit. I like the fact this can take out things like Planeswalkers, but 4 mana is just too much. Cycling shouldn't be relevant. Cycling is really good in the blue-white control decks where you pass with mana up a lot of the time, so you always have things to sink your mana into. If your cast out's not relevant, if you're trying to hit a land drop, you just cycle this. You can cycle it on your own turn to hit land drops in that deck. You can cycle it when it's just not relevant, when you're looking for a board wipe, when you're looking for a counter spell. In this deck, you're going to go turn 1, cast a 1-drop, turn 2, cast 2 1-drops or a 2-drop, turn 3, cast a 1-drop and a 2-drop or a 3-drop. At that point, no point on that are you going to want to cycle this, really. Yes, you might have to go, 1-drop, 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 2-drop, 2-drop or whatever, and then cast something out and attack, but you could have just done it cheaper. So yeah, don't think that one should be in there. You could put it in the sideboard, I guess, if you're just not sure what you're going to come up against. It's a good generic answer, but I think you want to be honing in a little bit on what is going to be troublesome for this deck. What's going to stop you doing what you're trying to do, which is put creatures down, give them some form of sort of evasion through flying or protection, or just give them abilities that outsize and sort of outpower other creatures, and then attack in. So the things that worry me are board wipes, things like fatal pushes that can effectively and efficiently answer our creatures. The one that really worries me is any creatures that are bigger than ours, like someone puts down a 2/4, the green Courser of Crufix, and you go, none of our creatures can really attack through that. Or they go 5/6 green creature with reach. I can't remember what it's called, the Cavalier of Thorns, and you go, can't get through that. So yeah, I guess the cast out works there, but I think I'd just drop this down to maybe a couple of Banishing Lights or something like that. Don't think you need the flash. I don't think you need the cycling either. Odric, he's 4 mana, so he's a bit much for an aggro deck, but he's the crux of the deck, isn't he? You're trying to do Odric things. If you haven't already, what I would do is I'd just go on to Scryfall and I would type these abilities, filter it down to Pioneer, and then you might have already done this to find these cards anyway, but things like Death Touch would be really cool. White isn't likely to have them, but they might have things that flip into things with Death Touch, or you could play things where you can pay, sometimes like a white card you can pay black to give them Death Touch. Then you could just bring in some dual lands or something, and just have a few sort of off colour lands white lands that also tap for black, pain lands or whatnot, to trigger those maybe. Suddenly gives all your stuff Death Touch would be pretty cool. I think Death Touch would be a great one if you can swing in with like 4 1/1 Death Touches. Suddenly their blocks are a bit more difficult, especially if they've got first strike and double strike and stuff. First strike Death Touch is great. That'd be great if you could find something with Death Touch or an ability that gives Death Touch. Maybe a like an equipment that you can equip really cheaply that gives Death Touch, something like that. I'm trying to think if Basilisk Collar does that, or does it give it pinging ability? I can't remember which one, but probably isn't anything that's that cheap. That's the problem. But yeah, that would be a really cool one to be able to give. Hexproof, not that relevant, I don't think, for this deck. You're going wide. Lifelink, Menace would be a good one, but yeah, in white it's difficult. Reach is not relevant. Skulk, I think, is not a popular ability. I think it's the one that's similar to Menace, but or Fear, I can't remember. Sideboard, have a quick look at this one. I won't go into it in too much detail. Knicks Fleece ROM, I don't think you should play this in the deck. I can see why the mono white Heliod ones play it, because it triggers Heliod and you just bring it in against, say, mono red, and they just can't beat you. Not 5, just blocks them all day long. Yeah, with a Heliod out, it's just nuts. It just suddenly becomes a 1/6. You can start attacking with it. I've faced this again against Aaron recently, and it's just horrible. Yeah, so I wouldn't play this. I think against it's nice against, say, mono red, but there's not that much mono red anyway around at the moment, and you just want to you've got enough lifelinks and stuff anyway. You just want to try and remove their creatures, I think. So yeah, I probably wouldn't play this guy. Rest in Peace, yeah, it's fine. 2 or 3 of them seems correct to new graveyardy stuff. Soul Flayer, it's good against the Sultai Delirium decks, obviously, and it's I'm not sure if it is good against the blue-black inverted decks, or it just helps them. It's one or the other. I haven't played it enough to work out if you'd want that at all in that one. Probably not. But yeah, a couple of them at least seems right. Forsake the Worldly, I think similar to the cast out, I don't think you want the cycling ability. Like, yes, it's nice, it can smooth out your draws a bit, you can turn it into something relevant, but I think if you're bringing in an effect like this, you know you want it, and you just want a cheaper version of it. There's a 1 mana version, I think, which destroys them with like CMC 3 or less, which I'd play, or if maybe just do a bit of a split on. There's one which is, I think, 1 mana, just destroys enchantments, or just a straight up disenchant or something, I think. It has the exile ability, actually, looking at it, so I guess it's to get rid of other Heliods maybe, but I don't think the exile is worth paying the extra mana. Paying 3 instead of 2 is a huge sort of difference in cost. Yeah, 4 Gideon seems over the top. I have to go 2 of them. It's good against some of the combo decks, but other ones I can just get rid of it anyway. So like, I play a couple of them. I don't think it's bad at all. It's really good actually against. It's probably actually better, I think, against like blue-white control. It just puts a sticky threat on the board that they can't just answer with a board wipe. They have to like put a deputy detention type effect on it, which they don't play that many of, so they have to bounce it maybe if they can. But they struggle to deal with this, to be honest. I was playing it in the sideboard of the Sramor's deck, and I just brought it in against the control deck and just killed them with it because they just didn't have any way of getting rid of it. Just did 4, 8, 12 damage or something. Settle the Wreckage is nice. Yeah, against good other aggro decks. Funny enough, like, people just don't seem to expect it quite as much coming out of the sideboard of an aggressive deck yourself. But yeah, it's good. I would probably put some Damping Spheres or I'm trying to think what the other one's called. Tormod Scripts, we probably don't need them. You got the Rest in Peace actually, yeah. So Damping Spheres maybe instead of some of the Knicks Fleece ROMs. I think you've kind of got enough life gain against the other aggressive decks, but we'll see. I'll stop rambling now. I will call at the end of this video because I've gone on for quite a long time, and we'll start the new one with the start of round 1. I'm going to try and get 3 games in. See how it goes, but yeah. End of deck tech, on to the games.